Parliament's Communication Committee has begun interviews with prospective candidates to serve on the SABC Board. Now, the three-day process began with threats of legal action to stop the process. Cosatu is demanding the shortlist of candidates include someone from Labour. The committee is now seeking legal advice on Cosatu's legal threat. Let me bring in our reporter, Bulelani Phillip, who's there for us. Bulelani, thank you very much indeed for your time. Let's start off with this apparent legal threat. What's the latest with regards to it?
Well, good morning to you, Blaine, and to the viewers. We're supposed to get a report back from the Legal Department of Parliament with regards to how they interpret this legal threat by Cosatu. Of course, the chairperson said that the letter that was written to the committee by Cosatu would be referred to the Legal Department to seek legal advice on whether they are correct in their interpretation of the Broadcasting Act. And therefore, the Legal Department is expected to give its legal analysis this morning. On the other hand, Cosatu, as I've tried to speak to their parliamentary coordinator, Mr. Matthew Parks, this morning, there's still no indication whether they will be seeking this urgent interdict today or not. But he says that he will be briefing us later in the course of the morning on their way forward.
Did Cosatu talk about options to the committee?
Well, the options that they are giving the committee is that they want the committee to say that there must be a shortlisted person who represents Labour. But in the event that there is no shortlist of that person during this round of interviews, there must be a one board member position that is reserved for a future date where interested parties can recommend people who come from the Labour sector. But of course, in the approach that the committee they have taken is that I think they are of a different view in terms of this interpretation of Cosatu that there must be a compulsory person from Labour on the SABC board. But of course, as I've said, we'll have to listen to what the committee gets from the legal department in a short while.
Yeah. Bulelani, so are you saying, just for some clarity purposes, so will interviews be conducted today? Or is it pending this legal challenge?
Well, the legal challenge is only coming through this letter that has been written to the committee. Of course, it's not enforceable if it's in that state. But of course, if the matter does go to court, then of course it will have an effect if a court issues interim relief or permanent relief sought by Cosatu, meaning that that would be giving a legal effect on stopping this process. But up until we get to that point, the interviews will be continuing again this morning and they will be concluded tomorrow.
The committee has made it very clear that they want people of character and integrity. Take us through day one and some of the candidates that appeared before the committee.
Well, I think that's an emphasis that has been made not only during this session of interviews, but also previously, given that over the last couple of years, we've seen SABC boards that actually do not complete their term of office. And therefore, this time around, I think the emphasis is being made that the people who avail themselves must be people who are willing to actually make this process through and complete their term of office. But over and above that, there must be people who are competent and people who are skilled and people who are qualified with the necessary qualifications in order to actually steer the SABC into profitability. The other issue that the committee has been raising is that the people who must serve on this board must not be people who are politically pliant in that they will be susceptible to any political interferences from political parties. There must be people who have thick skin, people who can stand their ground in order to ensure that the SABC continues to deliver on its public mandate, but at the same time, it remains independent and impartial.
Yeah, according to your reporting, one of the candidates was actually grilled about his affiliation or links to a particular party.
Well, the candidate, Mr. Cosatu, of course, he was having a second bite at these interviews. He was interviewed before, and this time around, he's coming back again to actually say that I'm still available. But of course, what the issue has been with him is that in his previous CV that was submitted to the committee, he lists 2 cabinet ministers that are currently serving as his references. And now the linkage that is made there is that he's very close to politicians. And the question, again, it goes back to that issue of will he be able to stand the ground when there is attempts of interfering politically, given that he's admitted that he is very close to these two cabinet ministers. The second issue that he was taken to task about was a letter that he wrote in 2016 rather, that was published. The letter in the main essentially tries to actually say that black executives that are serving in SOEs must not be attacked on scrupulous allegations. But what it has transpired now is that the people that he was actually referred to, amongst others, referred to former SABC COO, Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng, as well as the former ESCOM CEO, Mr. Brian Molefe, as well as former SARS boss, Mr. Tom Moyane. Of course, all those three candidates have been, in some sort or other, been implicated into serious allegations of corruption. And therefore, the question again there arises that could this kind of candidate be a person who is able to exert some level of good judgment when it comes to decision-making processes?
And of course, time is of the essence because Parliament rises on March 20th, I understand.
Yes, plain as I've said, the committee is rushing against time and they want to finish these interviews tomorrow. And then what will happen from there is that the committee is expected to sit again next week on Tuesday to deliberate on these candidates who will then, be whittled down to the number of people that are needed to serve on the SABC board. That is when then the committee will then make a report available for adoption to the National Assembly, and hopefully that report will be tabled before Parliament rises on the 20th of March.
Bulelani Phillip, live for us in Parliament.